Um, I don't know. My dad didn't say much about that kind of stuff. I really don't know. I just know this: when they were building the freeway, the freeway 210 right here, they had to tear down a bunch of houses. And the Velasco side of my family lived on Central, right here. Where this is your street right here, Central, over there. And so when they were building the freeway and it was all dirt, they had the ramps, so they would get cardboard boxes and slide down the ramps like that. I know they told me that.
What celebrations, traditions, or moments brought them joy, or like you joy?
I don't really know, but I do remember going down there once for, I think it was New Year's Day, and I was a really little kid. They were watching, I think it was Dallas Cowboys on TV, the Super Bowl, but I was just a real little kid. We didn't really do many things as a big family in Rocktown, but at other families' houses outside of Rocktown. I was only probably like 5 or 6 years old, or 7 maybe, when Rocktown was getting demolished, so my memories are just all I have.
And are there songs, foods, or smells that remind you of your family's time in Rocktown?
No, but the beer bottles, like I told you guys before, when they said, so in the backyard of my grandma and grandpa's house, they had beer bottles, it was weird, around the trees, like to keep the water in. And so they're all made of glass and everything, and I'm like there looking as a little kid, why is it like this? And they were all like beer bottles or alcohol bottles. I think there was a lot of alcohol consumption back then in Rocktown.
Do you have any favorite stories that show the character or spirit of the community?
Do I? No, only that I thought it was neat because, like my brother said, the streets were all dirt, and we could just walk right across the street from the railroad tracks. In fact, me and my sister, I got in trouble for this. They had some kind of hoist, and the cable was still there, like to lift something under the trains. It was all rusted, and we were messing around there. I slid down it, and I got a cut in my hand. So that's where it's a tetanus shot. I had to get a tetanus shot because it started bleeding, and my dad was mad at me because we were messing around over there. But it was like, I think it was like a free-for-all. There was no, I never saw no cops or anything,
What school did your family members attend?
So they both went to Davis Addition, that was in Rocktown on the east side, and then my dad went to Mad High School for 1 year. My mom only went to school, I think, till 6th grade or something like that, and then she moved to Mexico.
How did they describe their experience at school?
They really didn't. My mom didn't talk probably at all about school, I don't think, but my dad, he was more inclined to make us academic students for the most part. And my dad didn't graduate from Mad High School. He dropped out and then joined the Army. But then he went to night school later on in his life and got his GED, I guess it's called. And so I thought that was cool, like perseverance, my dad. I was just like sitting here, just like you students. I dropped out, not at high school, but in college, 2 or 3 times, honestly. I had no drive. But my dad, this is a true story. My dad died of colon cancer back in 1987. And I had already dropped out of Humboldt State once. And I came back and said, Dad, I'm going back to Humboldt to get my degree. He said, no, you ain't. I think he was trying to use reverse psychology. That's the only thing I can gather because I went back to school and got my degree and teacher credential and everything. But really, academics wasn't too high, to be honest with you.
Did they experience discrimination or exclusion in school?
That I don't know. I don't think they did, but like I said, I remember them saying that the Davis Addition School was mainly for the blacks and the Mexicans. So if you think about that now, that's kind of discriminatory, but that's kind of the way it was way back then. So we're talking about, my mom and dad were born in 27 and 28. So we're talking about the 40s, right there, 30s and 40s. So, but that wasn't true about the white school, the ultimately factory people white school. I mean, if you look, it was whites back then because that was, all the Davis Addition people were blacks and Mexicans and mostly whites. In fact, I'll tell you this, the house that my family still has in Gordy, it's actually on the border of Monrovia and Gordy County line, LA County, right near Maxwell. When my dad bought the house in the 50s, it was all whites. When I grew up in the 70s, it was all blacks. Now guess what it is? Look at yourselves. It's all Mexicans and Latinos. Honestly, isn't that a trippy thing?
Yeah.
Did they have friends from Rocktown or outside the neighborhood?
Yeah, from Azusa. So there was a lot of Mexicans in Azusa, as you might know, and they had relatives and friends from Azusa, but also gangs too, fights. I would hear about that, because you're always going to have kind of, people who want territory and so forth.
And what types of jobs or work did your family members do well in Rocktown?
I don't know, but my dad, his first job was at the phone company. I guess after he got out of the army, got married and everything. And he quit that to become a mailman at Duarte. And I don't know if this made it. There's not too many people up in Fish Canyon, Duarte, remember my daddy. There's a few, like you guys know TK Carter, right? The Carters, they're famous. Lois Gas and them. Their family still lives there, and they remember my dad, the Hermitas. My cousin Danny Valenzuela married Connie Hermita. Their family's still there. But mainly it's a bunch of new people that live up in Fish Canyon. And I think it's neat when somebody says, hey man, I remember your dad, or just, Facebook is neat because it goes way back. A lot of people are still living, and they'll say, yeah, your dad was the best. So that was awesome.
How did families support one another financially or socially?
I don't really know, but I could tell they were poor, they didn't have a lot of money, but they never needed for anything. But like I said, my grandpa did horticulture, I guess it's called, up in Bradbury for the avocado trees, and my grandma was just a homemaker. But there was never anything lacking. I liked going over there. It was fun.
Were there local businesses or workplaces that were important to the residents or people who live there?
That I don't know. Just looking back on this Rocktown thing, there was a black family in the Lees, Hardy Lees, and they had, I guess, a pig farm in Duarte. So they probably, people buying pigs and roasting them and all that stuff, in Duarte. But I couldn't tell you. That's what I was hoping. I actually tried to get hold of two of my relatives that actually lived there for a while. They're a little older than me, but they didn't even respond. Talk about emails. I emailed them and they didn't even respond. So it's hard. That's why I'm glad you guys are doing this Rocktown thing. I think that's a great thing.
How did family describe how Rocktown residents were treated in Duarte or surrounding towns?
No different than anybody else. It was good. I don't think they ventured out a lot. Maybe to LA, like my mom said. That was one thing I remember my mom saying. She said, we used to walk up there to the red line and take it to LA. To me, that sounds kind of neat. You guys could do that too with a gold line. Just hop on a gold line and go to Union Station or wherever. But back then, same thing. It was electric red cars, they called them, right up there.
Were there experiences of exclusion, segregation, or prejudice?
That I don't know. My dad never really talked about any prejudice things. He was biased, I know that, towards Mexicans and blacks. Like Hardiman Curtin was from Gordy. He played for UCLA. My dad thought the world. That's why I'm a UCLA fan. I don't know, UCLA, USC rival. But I've always been a UCLA fan. That's a guy, big old Fresno State fan over here. But like I said, my dad had a personal friend that went to UCLA. And so Rocktown was very proud of that fact. He was from Rocktown, Hardiman Curtin.
Okay. How did your family respond to social or racial challenges?
I thought about this a little.